Right, it is December the 12th, I think, 2024. Not the ideal time to be buying palms or new plants here in the UK. I have been good. I've been, since sort of October, I haven't really been buying any plants. I thought I'll wait till next year, but unfortunately, we know how that goes. Sometimes these plants come up that you've been after and you have to get them as and when you can. Yeah, nice mild day. We're in the garden. I'm looking at the Butia odorata here because the palm I've just bought is a cross between this palm and the Jubaea chilensis. So we're looking at a Butia, if you like, or Butia cross jubaea. This is an F2 hybrid. It basically means it's a second generation seed from Butia jubaea, F1 self-pollinated. Yeah, it's just saying around -10 once established, or a decent size on it. Yeah, so both Butia odorata and the jubaea chilensis are self-pollinating. They both have male and female flowers. So this is second generation. It's a purchase off eBay, a seller I've actually never used before, Kent Palm Grower. Got a lot of sort of Trachycarpus hybrids and that sort of thing, but when this came up I thought, well, it's not one I've desperately been after, but I thought when the price is right and it's available, I'll get it, and so I did. So again, eBay. It's pretty good actually for getting some rarer palms. So at first glance you could be mistaken for thinking this is just a Butia odorata, and again, going back to the tag, it says Butia cross jubaea. The first name would be the mother plant, so that'd be the Butia is the actual plant that got pollinated by jubaea seed or pollen, so the seeds will be off the Butia itself, so it may well be heavier on the Butia side, as it were. And again, you just by looking at it, you'd think there's a Butia, but there are subtle differences. I've got a similar sized Butia odorata here, which I dug out of the garden earlier this year. I'll sort of rule out colour, because Butia odorata varies a lot in colour. This one is a fairly light, almost, well, this is a mid to light green, and some you'll get almost a blue tinge or a minty green tinge like this one here. But so I mean, colour wise, you can't really tell at that. Looking at the trunk itself, I mean, they're both similar trunks as regards to the look and sort of colour, sort of a mid brown stroke grey as the leaf bases sort of fade down. There's not a lot of difference. I mean, when they get bigger there will be, obviously, but when they're small, very hard to tell. What I will say is the fibres, definite difference in the fibres. The Butia has slightly shorter fibres around the trunk, whereas the jubaea is considerably longer, almost double the length. These are just observations I'm making with the palms I've got in my garden. So leaf form. So again, with the Butias, we expect an arching leaf, sort of recurved as it were, and quite a tight V, and might be more noticeable on a bigger one, whereas, you know, there's quite a tight angle in the middle there, whereas the jubaea you could describe as a lot more open. So I mean, and also the jubaea leaf itself is a lot stiffer than a Butia. But again, going back to the plant in question, this Butia, so I mean, feeling it, the leaflets do feel a little bit stiffer than the Butia itself. Again, because it's quite a small specimen, it's hard to say. I would suggest that the leaflets would be a little bit wider, possibly, than the Butia, which tends to be quite fine leaflets. And the Butia is obviously a lot denser and a lot wider. So that will probably come in time. But I mean, really, and I'm being really picky here, this is the only visible noticeable difference at the moment is on the petioles. So with Butias, we can see up the petiole, I don't know if you can see it actually, there's teeth, quite sharp teeth all the way up to where the leaflets start. And even on the smaller one, you can see them, and they're not quite as sharp when they're small. But yeah, that sort of rough almond goes all the way up to the leaflets, whereas on this new Butia I've got, the petioles are smooth. So that is really the only sort of physical difference I can see at the moment. Again, this is not a big plant, this is in a 10-litre pot, and it's standing without the pot, just the palm itself. It's probably only about 1.5 foot, so still a small plant. So, but I mean, there's just a look at some of the differences. But yeah, basically, I'm happy to have another palm to the collection, and I look forward to seeing it grow over the next year or so. I mean, this will go in the ground eventually, as and when I've got a spot for it. And if anyone has watched any of my videos, space is really tight premium at the moment. But down the road a couple of years, I may well be having a shuffle about. I've got a greenhouse down the other end of the garden which may well come out, and that'll give me a big area there to do a couple of palms. But yeah, so at the moment this will be potted. It's a decent sized pot. I can't see any roots coming at the bottom at the moment, so I'll probably be alright for the next year or so. Then maybe next year I'll up pot it or get it to a reasonable size before we attempt to plant it out in the garden. But again, the tag says -10. That's probably the limits for a standard jubaea, I would say. Butia odorata maybe -8. Again, this is all depending on how dry or how wet the environment is. Obviously, it'll take more cold if it's drier. So yeah, it should be a hardy palm, and whether that'll be one that's sort of noticeably different to either the parents or distinguishable as a hybrid, I mean, only time will tell that. at the moment, again, for me, I'm a bit of a collector. I love the palms, so that is going to be one to watch over the next few years to see how that progresses. But again, another one ticked off the list. I did do a video yesterday on a couple of new palms I bought, very small palm seedlings, but you know, check that one out if you haven't already. That's a nice power jubaea I managed to get hold of. Yeah, so I think what we'll do is leave it there, and what I'm gonna be doing, obviously I've got my shelters up in the garden at the moment because it's winter, just to keep the jubaea a bit drier, is in a raised bed. This Butia odorata is actually living over winter in my summer house, so the Butia will go in there as well. So again, this is not heated, this is just dry, and I've got a lot of plants in here that will take the cold, but this will be kept dry over winter. So things like the queen palm and birds of paradise and the agave attenuata, there, all absolutely fine at, you know, around the freezing point, 0, -1, -2. They'll take that as long as they're dry. So that's where the Butia will live over winter, and that will be coming out in the spring. Right, so another one ticked off the list. The list gets smaller and smaller all the time. Like I say, I don't expect to be buying too much this time of year. I had set myself the goal, if you like, to not buy anything till spring next year, but again, as and when these things come up, you have to get them because they don't hang about for long. Right, I'll get these in the summer house. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you on the next one.